Hey guys, welcome to the harbor, welcome to the studio. Get your hand sanitizers all ready, be excited. Today I'm finishing another track. It's called Due to You. It's the one with the trumpet that some people absolutely hate, some absolutely love, but more on that later. I'm finishing the final mix down and some small details, and I would love to share with you how I'm doing this, what I'm listening for, what you can try to do also with your tracks. Let's get inside to the studio and get started. This right here is the entire song, Due to You, 73 tracks. This right here is like a mixing session. I did this before I had the new MacBook 16-inch to just have more like CPU speed and no latency to be able to mix. So I made the entire song in another project. All of this, that's why it's like all full length, is audio. Some things I replaced, they're MIDI, but maybe let's just get started with listening to the song before and after the fine details of the mixing.
I think you're freaky, and I like that. I wanna touch your body all night, yeah. Don't even get me started, I'll be right back. I've got a lot of honey, I'ma give you. If you really want me, baby, come through. Move a little closer, I know you want to.
So that's the first verse of the song. The previous version, it was fine, but like I had the feeling that some frequencies weren't sitting in the right spot, and mostly like the kick, it was like too high in frequencies. So I replaced it, and that's really like the #1 key of mixing, without a question, is if there's something not working, instead of trying to fix it with EQing, compression, reverb, or whatever, or doing like fancy stuff like multiband compression, mid-side EQing, just start with the simple stuff. And the simplest stuff is just to replace it. The kick didn't work. I choose a new one that just like is a lot cleaner, has the frequencies at the right spot. I made this with kick 2, of course. Just shaped it and made sure that the notes are hitting right and that it sounds really clean. Also shortened it a little in the amp. And this way, just got a cleaner kick. I added a top click to it to make it sound more organic, because this song is a little more organic. It's not like your typical 4 to the floor club festival banger. So you don't need the really clean kick. You need something that sounds a little more organic, but still the bottom end to be very, very clean. And then the vocals, I just, for example, added reverbs, new reverbs, because the previous ones I didn't like. Let me know if you're interested like in a full episode just about reverbs, because I hear a lot of mistakes being done when it comes to reverbs. But definitely changing the kick was the biggest difference. Then of course getting the volume right on a lot of elements, which like A and B testing to other songs helps a lot. And also knowing your speakers really well, and also having the acoustically treated room really helps. But for example, the bass was a little overpowering. So I actually have 2 basses here. Let me play both of them solo with the kick. And that's usually like the #1 beginner mistake when it comes to mixing, having either the kick or the bass or both way too loud. So I pulled down both basses a little by 1 dB and the other one by -4 dB, and also EQ'd them again differently. Made sure to cut the top frequencies because, I mean, they're not really needed in the mix. And this way you also get rid of that clicking sound. It's just not needed. It's just mud. It doesn't help in any way. And I did basically the same for the other bass. And on both of, or actually no, just on this one, I boosted at 70 Hz by 2 dB a little bit because I was lowering the volume of both of them, and then I was missing a little more at around 70 hertz, like balancing the volume of each individual track, but also balancing the frequencies individually. So for example, maybe a sound is too loud, you lower it, but then it appears like something is missing, and then you can reintroduce certain frequencies. And here I had the feeling that 70 hertz, like the subier part of it, is missing. So just boosted it by 2 dB. It's not like a huge difference. Let's maybe listen to it. It's just like a hint more bass. Then next up, let's maybe listen again to the before and after on the drop, on the chorus. You can really hear that everything is placed a little better. Again, the change of the kick, huge change to the entire track. EQing the bass lines, sidechaining them properly. I don't know why. I would love to show you the sidechaining, but I'm getting an SQL error on Shaperbox too. I don't know why. I definitely need to figure out why, because I can't finish the song without the sidechaining working. But basically, like, there is sidechaining on those 2 basses, the low ones. Quite heavy sidechaining. And then there's like a third brass, bass, something in between. That one has, yeah, I can't show it to you, but it has the mixing of the sidechaining to 70%. And like not so drastic, because it's higher in the frequency, so you want to hear the attack of the note and not get it like, not make it like vanish whenever the kick hits entirely. For the basses, yes, because they shouldn't interfere with the kick. And then what else? We got the full brass section, and that's where people, like, some are hating them because they say they sound too artificial. And yes, I agree. I first also didn't really like them, but I got used to them, and I think it kind of fits the vibe of the song. I also tried like recording real ones and mixing them to it. It didn't sound any better. It sounded more organic, yes, but it hurt the song in a lot of other parts. So I'm right now, maybe I'll do another session and try to make something better, but for now, I think I will stick to it. For example, who was it? Martin Forwork. I sent him the track. He said he hates the trumpets. I sent DJ Swivel the song, and he said he's digging them and really likes them. So it's maybe good to make something that is a little like controversial. Maybe you guys also can share your opinion in the comments. Let's see how many people hate it, how many people actually like it. But here I have both of them soloed right now, and the EQing, of course, the low cut just for safety, but I lowered 900 hertz on both of them just to make it sound a little cleaner. Let's maybe listen to it with and without. Again, it's something really fine and subtle, but if you do this on 70 plus tracks, it will add up and make your song sound a lot cleaner. The third thing was then definitely everything that had to do with stereo, placing things, deciding for which elements should be in the middle and mono, usually the vocal. If it's like the main thing, it should sit in the middle. I know some people like to make their vocals really wide. It's a stylistic choice, but if it's the main thing, just keep it focused in the center. And let's see if there's anything more, because as you can see, there are not a lot of plugins. It's like all of my mixing are EQs. Most of them are just low cuts and high cuts. Some of them, no, there's like the fancy EQing is really just the bass, boosting it at 70 Hertz and reducing the trumpets at 900 Hertz a tiny bit. The rest, I mean, there's the RX D-click on the vocals, which that stuff is just amazing.
You got me high, higher than the mountaintop. You got me flying tonight.
Like all of that nasty stuff, it just gets rid of it without making the vocals sound shit or anything. Some algorithm doing some fancy stuff, and it's very satisfying just listening to the output clicks only and knowing that all of that shit is getting erased. It introduces a little bit of delay, but it also shifts it back, so it's all fine. I just slap it on there and that's it. Yeah, let's check the master really quick, because that's what most people get really excited about, but I already have to like disappoint you a little, because I just have like a gain plugin on there. It doesn't even do anything. I just have it standard on there if I need to lower or increase the volume in the break parts, because the limiting on the master might actually limit the drop parts a lot more, the heavy parts, and make them closer in volume to the breaks that should be quieter, so I can like kind of fix it with that, but here it's not needed. And then just Ozone 9, very boring. It's just a vintage limiter, and it's not picking up a lot of the peaks. So it's just reducing the gain a little, and that's how I like to keep it. Like it's loud enough to play it to other people to get feedback, and then it's the mastering engineer's task to make it really, really loud without destroying it. If I now just pull down the threshold, we'll get really close to a point where it starts to distort and sound really, really bad, and that's really not what you want for your song. So it's a really boring master chain. I'm like more and more starting to have the philosophy to just do as much as possible in the mix. Let's check again if there's anything fancy. I mean, the rest is really reverb, but that's a little complicated and should be something for another video. But as you can see, just with like a little bit of EQing and changing the volumes of the elements, I think I improved it by like 5%. And again, the kick is the biggest difference. And there are probably already some people commenting that they like the previous version better, but I'm happy with the result. The only thing is like the trumpet brass thing. It doesn't bother me. And again, I tried out different stuff and made it just a lot worse. Again, mixing, just pick the right sounds. It's about the sound selection. It's not really about the mixing nowadays. I mean, back in the days when you had to record a band, mixing was a huge part, because you got all of these raw things that you recorded. They needed compression and everything. But when you're working inside the box and you make electronic dance music that just consists of samples and samples and samples and samples that are already heavily processed, and synthesizers that make perfect sounds that are artificial, it's more about, again, destroying them using distortion and like saturation to make it sound kind of fat, and then a tiny bit of EQing. And if a sound doesn't work, if you start doing crazy EQ settings, yes, sometimes they're necessary, but most of the time this should just let you conclude that it's not the right sound, that it just doesn't work. And also think about the song structure, the arrangement, what kind of elements should play together at the same time. For example, that's maybe the last one of the song, the very end of the song, because the drops are always just the trumpet and a little vocal here and there. The last chorus has the full vocal on, and there I had to adjust things a little differently to make it work. Let's listen to it.
You got me higher than the mountaintop. You got me flying tonight.
So now that, again, mixing is like a box full with elements, and at the very last course it's extremely full, and you then have to make the parts that are in the box a little tinier, like make them a bit smaller. So for example, as you can see, like on the brass section, I've lowered it by 1 dB. 1 dB less of it. It's not really audible, no one will listen to it and be like, oh, it's too quiet. And I also reduced the vocal a tiny bit by also 1 dB here, and another layer of the vocal by minus 0.6 dB. And this way I created a little more room to make it, to not crush the entire mix. And it works. It's just like 1 dB here and there on the main elements, and you can make them play together. There's no fancy sidechain EQing stuff. So whenever the vocal is playing, the trumpet is kind of triggered down. I mean, you could do that, but the second it's audible, and usually to make the room in the mix, you need to make it audible, it sounds a little weird. I mean, I can at least hear that someone used a plugin like that and that it's like starting to pump and fade against something. So I like the classic approach. Just lower everything a little. Anyways, that's already it. I hope you're not too disappointed because there's nothing fancy going on, but that's also not needed. It's again in the sound selection and the song structure. And yeah, once you got that nailed, everything else should be pretty standard, pretty easy. And I like to keep things minimal and make those minimal stuff really precise to get to a clean fat mix. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching. If you have any questions, just leave them down below. Tomorrow back again here in the studio. Sign off.